I'd like to talk to you about making a high impact presentation. A lot of people talk about delivering a presentation, and you can deliver a pizza, but you can't deliver a presentation. And to ensure your presentations are engaging and conversational, think about following 5 steps. The first is to think about who the audience is, whether it's one person across a coffee table or a whole group of people in an auditorium. Think about where they are and where you'd like them to be, what sort of information they like, what type of information do they like, where are they now with regards to their mood, and where is it that you'd like to take them to. So think very closely about who the audience is and what the starting point for the presentation is. The second point to think about is what content will really engage them. What's going to make it most persuasive for them? Is it going to be quotes, anecdotes, research? Do you want testimonials? Do you want case studies in there? Whatever content is most persuasive for them. The third, which I'll get into in more detail in a moment, is the format, to structure your content in a very logical sequence. Fourth is visual aids. Think about what visual aids you use. Are you going to use PowerPoint? Are you going to use boards? Are you going to use pictures? And what you'll find with regards to visuals is less is more. You'll find the more visual aids you use, the more complicated it gets to deliver. And finally, speaking of delivery, let's think about that and your voice modulation, your hand gestures, how you move, how you work with things like your eyes and gestural language. Very, very important to think about that as one authentic package. So what about the format, the most important of these particular steps? There's several elements, as you can see here. The first element is the setup. This is how you begin the presentation. You're saying things like who you are, how long the presentation will go for, how you plan to have them interact with you, a compelling reason why the presentation is taking place from their perspective, thinking about pacing out any particular objections they may have to make them obvious and acknowledged, and think very, very clearly about starting that conversation with that setup. The next element in the format is the takeout, which is the one main thing you want to leave them with at the end of the presentation, the one key message the whole presentation is about. Then in your agenda, think about, well, what are the key steps getting them from where they are now to where they'll be in the end? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. An agenda isn't a random collection of ideas. It is a sequence of steps taking them from beginning to end. Then for each agenda item, you've got support in there. This is the bulk of the presentation that you're covering. And finally, you summarize and conclude. Now, your summary is your one main point from each of those support areas, and your conclusion has 3 aspects. You restate the takeout, you ask them for approval, and you suggest the next step. So they are some key thoughts on how to deliver a high impact presentation.